3 men disappeared. Not at sea, not during a storm, not lost in the dark. Inside a lighthouse, on a remote island, cut off from the world. No roads, no nearby towns, no easy way in, no easy way out. Just rock, waves, wind, and isolation. The kind of place where nothing changes. The kind of place where everything is controlled. 3 lighthouse keepers, experienced, trained, used to silence, used to being alone. They lived there, worked there, maintained the light, day after day, night after night, watching the sea, guiding ships, keeping everything running, until suddenly they were gone. No struggle, no warning, no message. When rescuers arrived, the lighthouse was still standing. The light had gone out, but everything else in it was still there. Food on the table, beds untouched, clothes in place, equipment exactly where it should be. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, nothing disturbed, except one thing. The men, they had vanished completely. Now think about that, a remote island, 1 lighthouse, 3 trained men, and somehow not one of them was there, as if they were never there. And the most disturbing part, they didn't disappear in the ocean. They disappeared from inside. The rescue boat got closer and something felt wrong. No signal, no movement, no one waiting outside. Just the island and that silence. Cold, silent, unwelcoming. Everything about it felt wrong. There should have been a signal, a sign, someone waiting. But there was nothing. No movement, no figure on the rocks, no one at the landing. The rescuers called out, no response. Only wind, only waves, only silence. The door to the lighthouse was closed, but not secured. Inside, everything felt still, too still, like time had paused. A chair was slightly out of place, a clock had stopped. The light above was not functioning, but it wasn't destroyed. It was simply off. The kitchen showed signs of recent use. Food prepared, dishes nearby, nothing rotting, nothing abandoned for long. This wasn't weeks old, this was recent, very recent. And yet, no one was there. One of the most unsettling details was the missing gear. 2 sets of oilskins were gone. 1 remained. Why would 1 man leave without it? Why would all 3 leave at once? That alone didn't make sense. Lighthouse keepers don't abandon their post together, not all at once, not without reason, not without leaving something behind. And yet, they did, or something forced them to. Then, they found the logbook, and it made everything worse. The entries weren't normal, they sounded afraid, not technical, not routine. 1 keeper described strong winds, another wrote about unease, a third mentioned fear. That word stood out, fear, in a place where storms were normal, in a job built around isolation. What could scare men like that? The entries became more unusual. 1 wrote about a storm, but records showed no storm at the time. Another mentioned crying. Another wrote that all 3 were praying. Praying. That was not normal. Not for routine operations, not for experienced men. Something had changed. Something had shifted. And then, the entries stopped. No final explanation. No conclusion. Just silence. To understand the weight of this mystery, you have to go back. December 1900, Flannan Isles, off the coast of Scotland. A small group of rocky islands, remote, harsh, almost untouched. The lighthouse stood on Eilean Mor, the largest of the islands, built to guide ships, to prevent disaster, to keep the sea under control. 3 men were assigned there: James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, Donald MacArthur, each one experienced, each one trained, each one familiar with the job. They rotated shifts, maintained the light, recorded conditions, followed strict routines. Everything was structured. Everything was predictable. That's what made it safe. That's what made it reliable. Nothing about their assignment was unusual. Nothing suggested danger. They were isolated, but that was expected. That was part of the job. Days passed. Then something went wrong. The light failed. Ships passing the area noticed. No signal, no guidance. That alone triggered concern. A lighthouse cannot go dark, not without reason, not without explanation. A relief vessel was sent, delayed by weather, arriving days later. And what they found created one of the strangest mysteries ever recorded, because the men weren't missing at sea. They weren't found in the water. They weren't found anywhere. They were gone from inside. That is where the tension grows, because disappearing at sea makes sense. Falling, slipping, being taken by waves. But disappearing from a structure is different. It suggests something else, something harder to explain. The lighthouse itself showed no signs of violence, no broken doors, no forced entry, no blood, no struggle. Everything was intact. Everything was in place, except the men. The investigation began quickly. Inspectors searched every corner, every room, every path outside. Cliffs were checked. Rocks examined. No bodies, no signs of a fall, no trace of a fight. Nothing. The west landing showed damage. Ropes displaced. A box broken. Something had hit the area. Possibly a wave. A large wave. But even that raised questions. Why would all three men go there? Why would they all leave the safety of the lighthouse? Why would one go without proper gear? That doesn't follow procedure. That doesn't follow logic, unless something forced them, unless something urgent happened, unless something went wrong. Fast. The official explanation leaned toward a rogue wave, a massive wall of water, striking unexpectedly, sweeping them away. One man goes out. Something goes wrong. Another follows. Then the third, trying to help, trying to respond, and all three are taken. It's possible. It fits some of the evidence, but not all, because lighthouse protocol exists for a reason. One man stays inside, always. That rule is critical. That rule is survival. And yet, it was broken. All three left, or something made them leave. And that's where doubt begins. Another theory suggests an accident, a chain of mistakes, misjudgment, poor timing, a dangerous situation escalating quickly. That could explain movement, that could explain urgency. But again, all three leaving doesn't make sense, unless they believed something required all of them. Something serious, something immediate. Then there's the psychological angle. Isolation, silence, days without contact, limited interaction. That kind of environment can affect the mind. Stress builds, fear grows, perception changes. But even then, three men breaking routine together is rare, very rare, especially trained professionals, especially in a controlled system. And then there's the idea no one can prove, but no one can fully dismiss. Something unexplained, something unknown. Not a wave, not an accident, not a simple mistake, but something else. Something that caused them to leave safety. Together, at the same time, without preparation, without record, without return, because they didn't disappear in the ocean. They disappeared from inside. That line defines everything. It changes the entire perspective, because the danger didn't come from distance. It came from proximity, from within reach, from the place they trusted. The climax of this story is not a moment, not a fall, not a scream. It's absence. A fully functional lighthouse, a complete environment, a controlled system, and no people inside it. Three men, inside a lighthouse, gone. No bodies, no final message, no confirmed cause, just an empty structure, standing in silence, watching the sea, continuing its purpose, as if nothing happened. But something did. Something took them, or something made them leave, and we don't know which. 3 men lived there, 3 men worked there, 3 men vanished. No bodies, no answers, and no one has ever explained how they disappeared from a locked island.